Hey, everybody, and welcome to week 9. Can you believe it? It's already week 9 for CPT 202. And today we're going to be talking about social media for business. We're going to be diving into some social media statistics and talking about why this has been such a life changing thing for so many small businesses and large corporations. To kick this off, I always love to start with basically the social media revolution video series. So this link is attached below the lecture. I want you to, pause this video, watch it. It's always just mind blowing some of the statistics of how much social media has been basically embedded in our everyday lives, especially from the business perspective. I hope you all enjoy. So pause this video and take a watch of social media revolution. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video. The statistics they put in there every year that they update are it's just mind blowing, just how much social media has grown and the influence it has on our everyday lives, whether we're looking at it from an entertainment and a personal aspect or looking at it from the business perspective. So we're really talking about business here. Obviously, it's attached to the course. So social media and business, it's really revolutionized how businesses interact with their customers, clients, audiences, whatever you want to call it. It's one of those things that has provided a new interactive way that happens in real time, and honestly, that can be really overwhelming from the business perspective. I know quite a few people in the industry work for large companies, work for small businesses, and social media is a 24/7 type of business. However, it's becoming more common. You see that in job descriptions that they want some sort of social media understanding, whether it's social media marketing skills, social media community building. You'll see a few of these terms when you're looking through job descriptions, and it's just more important than ever before. So I've got some tips, statistics here to walk you through, and then we're going to talk specifically about the two platforms you're going to be using for your assignment, which include Instagram and Twitter. So let's jump in and take a look at some pretty impactful statistics here. So when we're talking about consumers, right? So this is again from the business perspective. 55% of consumers learn about brands or companies on social media. The industry for online advertising has just exploded, and I'm sure, depending on what social media tools you're all using, you get ads, right? You're fed ads all the time, whether you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, you'll see those pop up. TikTok is loaded with them even as you're scrolling through videos. All these platforms have been developed and monetized in some way so that there's ads and there's a place for businesses to really showcase themselves, and it really embeds you into the everyday life of the consumer, and obviously that's the goal. It's to have that brand recognition, and when you get into like digital media marketing, e-commerce, it's a tool that really you can't pass up. Looking up next, 68% of consumers agree that social media enables them to interact with companies or brands. And this is really important from a customer service perspective. I don't know if any of you have. I definitely did, especially when I lived in the UP. If I had a outage, whether it was Upco or if I had an outage with Charter, I could jump on Twitter. I could see if other people are having outages, maybe in local Facebook friends, and then I could report it and I could talk to customer service. And that expectation, that instant connection to a company, is something that we all have now. It's been embedded into the way the society works. And when you think about it, it's kind of crazy, right? Before you used to have to like write a letter into a company or send an email or even call, during business hours. And now people will just jump on Twitter, they'll jump on a platform, hashtag it, and send it out and expect some sort of response. So it's created a ton of new jobs, which has been really impressive, and a new type of connection between people, the consumers, and these brands. Now, 43% of consumers increased their social media use to discover new products last year. Um, the product market and product selling showcasing has gotten to be absolutely incredible. As you see, people from Etsy and Pinterest and all these startup companies are injecting their new products or updates through social media. Maybe you've seen live streaming happen where there'll be a big announcement and they'll throw it on Facebook Live or they'll throw it on YouTube and do a live announcement. That connection and that showcase now used to take a lot of money. You had to rent a facility, so some sort of convention center. You have people there. You do a big bunch of big announcements. Now you can do that all through a simple office camera. You can live stream it with, very little cost overhead and showcase these new things. And so that's how people discover new products most of the time. It's not going into a store and finding something new. It's usually seeing it through some sort of online ad, maybe going to a website, checking some reviews, and then maybe you go actually interact with the product itself. On top of that, 78% of consumers are willing to buy from a company after having a positive experience on social media. And this is a trust issue here, right? So if you believe in a brand and you see how they're interacting on social, you then like subconsciously attribute that action to the brand and it builds brand equity and you start to really connect with that brand. If they do something bad, you see, a lot of things happen. Brands will, speak out of turn or they'll have some sort of problem, and then that immediately spreads across the internet, and people back off from that brand. So, what that voice is extremely important, and honestly, can be the difference between success and failure from the business perspective. 80% of business executives think it's very important or essential to invest in additional social media resources. You're seeing social media managers, social media teams being developed in so many businesses, so many companies, because honestly, it's important. It's that front line where the business brand gets to communicate with consumers. After the purchase is made, you have like mailing lists and things that way. It's more traditional. But to get consumers in, it's all about that front line. I mean, I'm sure you all do the same thing I do. If you hear about a product or you hear about a brand, you immediately jump on your phone and maybe you pull up their Facebook page or you pull up one of their social accounts on Instagram because you want to see what they're all about. Maybe you want to see what the product is. And that's why these positions are so important and so crucial now in the way that our society, works and kind of interacts with each other. Um, because of the way things are in terms of this rapid growth that we've seen in social media and in new platforms, right? So TikTok has kind of um, exploded, and you see now all these new platforms. That's becoming even more of a demand on people where you start to add multiple channels. And so 91% of executives here will increase social media marketing budgets in the next 3 years. Why? Because there's so many channels out there. You have your Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, you have Snapchat, you have YouTube channels, which now have social components. You have obviously TikTok is becoming more of a staple for how we ingest quick content. There's all sorts of expansions that are happening out there. And because of it, executives have to increase that budget. They have to get a more specialized team in there because they are competing with each other in that space. And I'm sure all of you, if you've used Snapchat, right, and you're watching through one of the series that are out there and you get hit with that ad and you click and that yellow bar, pops up because you can't skip that ad. That quick, valuable time, even if you're trying to skip through it, you're still ingesting a 5-second ad. And so it's those things like that that are really changing how consumers are learning about brands and then making decisions on products. So social media for business is absolutely crucial, and it's why I really hope you all enjoy this week and next week as you get to dive in and start up some of these accounts, thinking from that business perspective. So one of the things that we're going to talk about next specifically is Instagram for business. And the reason for this is, yes, you will be starting an Instagram account for your assignment. You're actually going to be treating your podcast that you made the previous weeks. You're going to be turning that into your business. So how are you going to market that podcast that you put together using these social media channels? So you're going to be using Instagram here and Twitter. And so we're going to talk a little bit about both of them. When we look at Instagram for business, right, to get started, and we'll walk through these more in depth next week, but really it's quite easy. You get your profile set up, and what that means is you need your profile photo, which is usually your brand. For your situation, it'll be that cover image from your podcast. You need an account name, a username, a website, which really should be the link to your podcast, and then a bio where you can talk a little bit, very little bit, because Instagram doesn't allow you to have a lot of characters there. But setting up that profile is key. Thinking through what your username should be and what your account name should be so people can find you in the abyss that is Instagram. Then it's creating content. That's super important. You might have accounts that you follow because they post multiple times a day. Maybe they're doing reels and stories and all these different components. The content is key. That's how you're going to build that community and build that following, which is the next most important thing. Eventually, you have people that start to check out your account or are looking for your account or engaging with your account, every day, every couple days. And that community of trust, you're building that brand equity, and that's how you can start then kind of cycling through monetization and how you might sell products if you're a business. For you all, it would be getting listeners to your podcast. So very important. And overall, what Instagram does great for businesses, it allows you to craft your story. It allows you to be able to tell a narrative through images and videos, and having those on your main profile, and then how you basically how you can interact with Reels and Instagram TV and doing longer form video content. It really is a way for you to combine all the different media and tell who you are as a brand, who you are as a business. And that's what consumers want. I'm sure all of you do the same thing. If you use social media, you can get to know a company very easily by how they post. And Instagram does an amazing job, which is why it's a important part here of your assignment that'll be coming up. The next side of this is a platform that's really powerful and goes through some ups and downs of popularity. So you probably don't have a Twitter account, and that's okay. You'll be creating one for your blog or for your podcast here. Um, but Twitter is amazingly powerful when it comes to networking and making those connections based off of how hashtags work and just how people are utilizing Twitter. So the breakdown here of a tweet is, it's something that I want to incorporate, because if you're not that familiar with Twitter, it kind of breaks down how everything looks. And so use this kind of as a reference for yourself. Click into the slide, you can see this. But it breaks everything down into how people ingest Twitter. A lot of the time people were like, oh, I don't like Twitter, it's just Facebook statuses. And that there was a phase for a while where people didn't get it. But for those of us in the business side, the ability to have conversations and have link things together using hashtags are extremely important, and to have those conversations with people all around the world. And really, I've seen more so now Twitter driving people to other things. So people will link to their Instagram account or their YouTube channel, or if they're on Twitch, they might send out a quick tweet that's, hey, I'm live right now, check out my Twitch channel. So all these things are really powerful inside of Twitter to be able to make some of those announcements and then connect users to your other accounts. Now, how to use hashtags, I always cover this, because if you're not that familiar with social media, totally okay. Some of you might be experts at this point, you use social media all the time, but the key to remember is you can really make hashtags however you want. Starting a fresh hashtag is very difficult, right? Because you're needing to convince other people to share in that. So from a brand perspective, it's a lot of work and costs a lot of money in digital ads to get people to use your hashtag. But using common hashtags to have conversations and participate, where you're going to see that the most is in like conferences, maybe big announcements. Apple does an amazing job with their hashtags, because you can actually participate with their account on Twitter, and then they'll send you reminders for big announcements, basically when they're doing new product showcases and things. But think of it as a subject line. It can be fun. It can be, really anything, as long as you have that hashtag or pound mark in front. And you can establish that category and start to branch off. So I always encourage all of you to explore the hashtags that are currently trending. You'll see those in your Twitter account, and really, take a look and see what's going to work for you. Now, I want to cover Twitter etiquette as well. Avoid play-by-play, oversharing, and spoilers. Man, spoilers will get you in a lot of trouble if you see a movie before other people have had a chance. Twitter lights up with that. Play-by-play, tweeting like every couple seconds. It's okay if you're covering like a live event, but you need to let people know that you're going to do that as well, because it does, start to pile up. Um, you know, be active on Twitter. Respond when people comment to you. Retweet things that are important to you. Twitter's gotten kind of a bad name because it's been so hijacked for politics, and really, I'm trying to basically educate all of you because there is a lot of value to Twitter. Sadly, politically, it's been just abused and used. But from a business perspective, it's still an amazing way to network and can build your own personal network. That works well for representing you, and then obviously any sort of business interests that you might have as well. Some common Twitter mistakes: begging for followers, or you'll see spam accounts that pop up saying, like, hey, follow me, and then you'll gain 100,000 followers. Avoid all of that. It's just really tacky. It can be, harmful to your account and for the integrity of the business or the account you're representing. Not responding. If people are using Twitter and asking you questions that are legitimate questions, especially from a business perspective, just ignoring them irritates people. More people than tweet that you don't respond, and it just kind of cycles from there. Tweeting random things, be intentional. Don't just be like, hey, I had a really good waffle for lunch. No one cares. No one wants to see that. But be intentional with what you're trying to talk about and the connections you're trying to make. And then watch out. Don't use too many hashtags. 3 to 4, solid. When you start to pile them on, you'll see some people copy and paste, like especially on Instagram. They'll use 20, 30 hashtags. It just hogs up the screen and it's just not proper, especially on Twitter. Instagram has some sneaky ways that we'll talk about next week on how you can add hashtags that don't clog up someone's screen. But ultimately, bringing this all together, social media, it lets us from a business perspective communicate and interact with our consumers, with our clients, with our customers. It gives them a straight portal into us, so we can find out a lot of data. We can use polls, we can ask questions, and do a lot of market research for free, which is awesome. And again, the big component: getting these accounts created for small businesses. They're free. You can get started for free. Obviously, you can spend on ads, and you can spend a lot of money on ads, but getting those profiles out there, making those connections don't cost a thing. You're all going to see that when you create these accounts next week for promoting your podcast. And I'm always excited to see what you all can do with these social media channels. So we'll dive in next week into all the details. I look forward to seeing what you can do and how you're going to promote that podcast. So, all right, get started. Start thinking about what you're going to do for next week, how you're going to get these accounts created, and I'll talk to you later.